Okay. So, Dad, you are an airline pilot for Delta. COVID hit, and then the world kind of crumbled a little.
Mm-hmm.
So, what was your immediate reaction and response to the shutdown? And did you feel an uncertain fear of anything?
Okay. Yeah, so I'm an international airline pilot for Delta Airlines. Um, most of my travel is from the U.S. to Western Europe. Germany, France, Italy, Spain, other places, and then we also fly a little bit to South America. So with international travel, when COVID hit, everything stopped. It kind of like it fell like dominoes, if you will. In December, January, there were kind of rumors on like, oh, something is happening over in China, and then something's happening in Italy. And this wasn't the first time that we'd had problems of this sort. It was, we had, SARS was an issue, swine flu was an issue, the Zika virus. This isn't the first time we've had an international, medical issue. But I think it caught everybody off guard how quickly and thoroughly it spread everywhere, and it was really just trying to get a handle on it. And I think the question about did I have any fear in the issue? I think a great thing to define is like fear being fear of the unknown, and that once we, especially like as an industry, but also as people, is once we can kind of get a good clear look at what we're doing, put it in a box and say, okay, label this thing that we're up against is this powerful or this big or this small or whatever, or going to last this long. That's when it comes away from fear, and you can see what you're dealing with and say, oh, okay, well, we can handle that. It's going to take a year to get out of or whatever. But as things just kept cascading, it was like, I remember specifically me, it's like it was chasing me around the world. We had heard of, this virus that was going on, and I flew to northern Italy, and northern Italy was supposed to be totally safe. It was like, no, it's not in northern Italy, it's in southern Italy, it's not a big deal. And I was like, okay. And I landed I went to Milan, and I came back, and they're like, oh, northern Italy's bad. Like, okay, great. And then my next trip was to Spain. I went to Barcelona, and they're like, no, Spain's fine. That's, don't have to worry about it there. And I came like the day that I landed from Spain. They're like, nobody go to Spain, So there was this cascading effect of like, what the heck is going on, And then in the industry, yes, it was, how long is this going to last? How, obviously we were trying to protect our passengers and protect our crew members, so if you think a passenger flies once to somewhere and that's the end of it, or, out and back, our crew members are flying 5, 6, 8 times a month, you know what I mean? So we're really trying to protect the crew members as well, keep them from getting sick, keep them from spreading it to their families. So that was kind of the industrial fear question. And did that answer? Was there a second question?
No.
Okay.
One or two, depending on the length. But what are some other stories of people who have lost their jobs or came close to losing them?
Okay. Well, I'll do one inside of my industry and one out. So inside the industry, we have something called furlough, which is basically like you lose your job temporarily. We're all part of a union. Everything is seniority based. So the last 1,000 people to get hired would be the first 1,000 people to get laid off, but then they would retain rights to come back. And so that was a threat for quite a while, 6 to 8 months. And it was kind of like, we're going to have to furlough these people. And then some of the government aid came to basically, because they don't want to, the government has a vested interest in keeping the transportation infrastructure, alive. So that was just kind of, I wasn't one of those people, but a lot of my friends were, because they had just gotten hired at Delta. So it just kind of like, they didn't really know week to week to week. There were a bunch of deadlines on like, are we going to get furloughed? Or are we not going to get furloughed? Am I going to have a job? Or am I not going to have a job? And we basically came to some agreement that they would get the lowest pay rate that the airline had, and but then be able to sit at home and just wait for travel to pick back up. I think one of the, Mike Rowe, I listen to him a little bit, and he's got some great examples on this thing that we came up with called an essential worker. I have a piece of paper from Delta that says that I'm an essential transportation industry or infrastructure worker, whatever. So that allows me to go to work, and we suddenly had this abstract line that was brought upon us, whether it was by local governments or state governments or federal governments, to say, these people are essential, and therefore, by conversely, none of you are essential. And that hurt a lot of people. The restaurant industry that was just devastated. I think waiters and waitresses and chefs and stuff like that. And all of a sudden, they just had to stay home, and so many people like that lost their job. The construction industry and stuff like that. A lot of that has picked back up a bit, but I think it's going to be a while before it comes back.
So then, right off of what you just last said, do you think that the airline industry picked up quickly, gradually, slowly, or just not at all yet after the world is opening?
Sure. A little bit of all of those. As I mentioned before, I'm an international pilot. That's the plane that I fly. Flies mostly international. Domestic right now, which is travel within the 50 United States, basically, it's like we can barely get a hold of it because it's so busy. Those people that quasi lost their job and got lowest pay or whatever, they have to come back and get retrained to get resent, either on a different airplane or just recurrent because they haven't flown an airplane in a year or whatever that is. So you can't just put them back out on the road and let them go. So we're actually having difficulty staffing all the domestic flights that we have because this event, unlike some others, people actually want to travel. They've got this cabin fever. They've been working from home. They've been staying at home, in whatever 2-bedroom apartments with 5 people in the family in the middle of New York City. And they want to get out and they want to go on vacation. They want to go see their families and stuff like that. So domestic has really started to explode, and we're kind of trying to keep up with it. International, we're still canceling flights because the flights are empty. The plane I fly usually has about 300 people on it. It's got 300 seats, and I've flown flights with 15 people. It's like a ghost town in the back. It's crazy. So like we've canceled flights to Dublin recently, and we'll severe drawdown. And that has more to do with not just the reality of where the disease is or where the healthcare is or where the vaccinations is, but also like international tariffs and agreements on who can travel to what country and from what country to what country, because they're obviously trying to prevent a further spread or a resurgence. And so that, because there's a bureaucratic element to it, it's going to take longer. The EU right now the European Union has basically said they're going to reopen for this summer. Some have already opened like May 15th. I think Athens, Greece has opened back up. France is going to open up mid-June. As long as that trend continues, and if we can be open by summertime, then people will travel in the summer, and it'll be better. We will be losing less money. I don't know if we'll be making money and the industry will recover, but at least it'll kind of the machine will start up again. Tourism, travel, visiting family, stuff like that.
Okay. Anything else that you want to add?
No.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.